We see the same thing where companies are just hurting to try and find the funds to invest in innovation, right? And it's these legacy systems that work great, are fully functional, very robust, but they've just spending a fortune trying to keep them running and paying support and all the things that go with that.
Yeah, so it's not just the support, it's the fact that it's in multiple places, it's multiple license models, it's the fact that it's sitting across different divisions. If they can actually take the first step to drive down that cost structure, now they can free up funds for either new projects or innovation or hiring the right skill sets or even training, right? All that money suddenly becomes available to actually buy new licenses, for example.
Yeah. Now, are you seeing new entrants to the enterprise software market broadly that are some of the new winners in these new systems of engagement, cloud, AI, whatever it may be?
Yeah, we definitely are. I mean, most people are standardizing, as you said earlier. I mean, Salesforce and Workday, we're seeing a lot of traction there. But we're also seeing companies like ServiceNow do really well as people are looking for testing and trying to figure out those tools. And in general, I think the cloud vendors are winning in terms of the innovation game. The on-premises vendors are trying to play catch-up, and in some cases they are catching up, and in other cases it's still a big gap.
Yeah, no, definitely see that. What about the traditional enterprise software providers, right? Oracle, SAP, and there's some other players running around. What role are they playing in this innovation?
So the thing that's happening is they are trying to innovate. A lot of them are spending money on R&D to roll out new products and service offerings. But because they have such a big legacy base, the only thing they care about is account value. So if you spent $5 million with them last year, they want to get $6 million out of you in the next 3 to 4 years. So at some point, they're not even worried about the innovation. They're just trying to figure out what did you buy. And the products are an excuse to have that conversation. And I think that's a lot of the challenge companies face when they're dealing with some of the vendors.
Well, and I think that there's no doubt that there's an account rep with 2 or 3 accounts, right? And their job is to maximize the return for them on those accounts, and that can be a very tough situation.
Or in some cases, there are multiple account reps that are still calling on you from different sides of the equation, which is like chaos. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. What about from a solution standpoint? Are the traditional vendors getting there? I mean, I know that some of the more innovative vendors that you just mentioned, from a cloud perspective, for example, are seen as the leaders in those respective spaces by far. But how are the enterprise players doing in catching up and trying to be relevant?
Well, I think the way they caught up was they did it through mergers and acquisitions. They bought the best of breed players, and now they're spending time bringing those back into their technology stacks. The money companies spent on maintenance was used to do mergers and acquisitions, and a lot of times you ended up paying again for the newly acquired products. So customers are a little bit tentative about what's going on.
Yeah. Now, as a part of that scenario, if you will, those hybrid environments that are being created, right? So these legacy systems are, in a way, the system of record. And then you're innovating around the edges of these. Are you seeing multi-vendor environments? Like, I'm going to pick Salesforce for this and some other cloud or analytics solution here? Or are people going full suites for that hybrid approach?
So something is interesting happening. We are rapidly entering more of a hybrid cloud environment and a multi-cloud environment. And so the hybrid cloud environment there's a switch between on-premises and what's in the cloud. And we also see people standardizing on some things in the cloud, but not necessarily full entire suites that are emerging. People are picking best of breed areas, and the definition of the suites are starting to change as well. What we see happening in suites, the commoditized technologies are going into the suite. The areas of innovation are still going to be best of breed, just like we did in on-premises. These are just new deployment models. But what we're seeing more importantly is your ability to manage multi-cloud becomes important, and your ability to orchestrate processes and data across these suites, across these different clouds, and across being on-premises and in the cloud. That's really what's becoming the challenge.
No, that makes perfect sense. If I'm a CIO and I've got a infrastructure of existing on-premise applications. I'm starting to deploy an infrastructure as a service. The business units have probably deployed their own cloud applications, right, without me, but I'm playing catch up. I'm trying to pull that in. What sort of, is this going to be a 2-year, a 5-year, a 20-year kind of proposition where I'm going to be managing this environment?
I think these organizations are going to have to do this over the next 5 to 10 years. It's going to be quite some time. I mean, we met someone that had like 14 instances of Salesforce inside the same organization. They can't even merge those right now. Then I thought that was bad. I met someone with 42 instances of Salesforce, right? Same organization, right? And that's just in one application. So we see a proliferation of all these different clouds, and we also think that at some point people need that abstraction layer and they need to come back and orchestrate.
How is it going to play out? Or I guess you talk with customers all the time who are running, one of the big on-premise deployments today, and their vendor of choice is building a new platform, for the future. But at the end of the day, do they go all in and wait for that to be built? Do they start deploying it now in partnership? Do they wait in hybrid and do that strategy? How do you see that playing out for most customers?
So we always start out that form follows function. The business requirements have to dictate what you do. But let's say all things being equal, if you could hold off not making that shift, please do. Because what's really happening is if you make the shift, you're paying multiple times. You're paying once to get to the platform. You're paying again to test out a new app which might not fully be developed. And by the time it's fully ready again, you'll have gone through a whole entire cycle. If you just waited like 3 years or 4 years and just bought the thing that was ready, you'd be a lot better off. And that's what we're seeing a lot of customers who went early.
Yeah, okay, so they're deferring the decision, right? They may intend or may not intend fully to make the move to that new platform. If it works, great. If it's built and it's proven, wonderful. But if not, by the way, they've avoided a potential disaster too.
Defer if you can, if you're not getting enough functionality. Like if you're not matching close to 80–90% of your current functionality, and this is where a lot of those new deployments fail because it's not vertical enough. It doesn't have all the capabilities you had in your previous version because they have to build those up. So just wait it out. Or I'd say one thing, if you are actually driving those requirements and you're on the other end, that might be the only chance to go after that.
Yeah, sure. And there's a thin percentage, or whatever the number is at the top, the biggest of the big, they're always going to partner no matter what.
Right, or if you're an industry leader, then yes, they'll build the requirements to what you're doing. But for the rest of us, you're going to want to do something different.
Yeah.